Welcome again to Let's Talk Forensics with Pastor Dan. The last concept we're going to look at in trace analysis is paint. Now, what exactly is paint analysis? Paint analysis is paint in any substance that hardens into a film, film-like material that consists of pigments and other additives suspended in a layer. Now, when it comes to this, the most commonly case involving paint, there are two of them. The first is called hit and run. When somebody runs into somebody, takes off. So they'll leave pieces of glass, but also pieces of paint either on the car that they hit, or maybe onto a street, or onto a person, however that works. Second one, a lot worse, is vehicular homicide. Vehicular means with a car, homicide, killing somebody with a car. So usually that involves a hit and run, but not always. Hit somebody, kill them, that's vehicular homicide. Sometimes a good proportion of that has to do with DUIs, driving while intoxicated. All right, now, when it comes to layers of paint, there are 4 different layers. The first layer is called the electrostatic primer. It prepares the metal for painting and will be a good source of trace evidence because when it hits, that whole layer comes off initially. Second one is the primer. That prepares the color, that makes it even. If you've ever painted, you know what primer is. Third is the base coat. That's where the color is. So the third coat is the color coat, base coat. And the last one is the clear coat. That's protective covering, gives it the shine, things along those lines. So those are the layers that you have in any paint. Now, the main problem with paint is every company has its own paint formulation. And often companies will use the same paint for multiple cars. So there has been a database set up that forensics can use that will match it, but then you're talking maybe thousands or millions of cars in an area. You can coordinate down, you can lead to a city how many cars have that matching type. But again, the database we have match up the type of paint, but it's still gonna not give you a huge, if you find the car that would match up in that paint in that way. Now, the best match with paint is 1 in 33,000. We use the same paint for years, many models. There are 254.4 million vehicles in the United States. So, as a result, paint is not always the greatest solution. What's a better solution? That would be the metal involved. Now, we look at the metal itself. We're looking at tool, bullet, accident, leave behind fragments. Okay? So, like we talked about before, no two manufactured metal use exactly the same composition. So if I can find some metal at the scene, I can be able to identify the exact model of car that was used based on the metal that is present. All right, now, the main thing that we look at to examine metal is something called a scanning electron microscope or a scanning microscope. What this does is it sends an electron beam down. That beam then takes a bit by bit image and get incredibly detailed images. I'm sure you've seen the pictures of bugs in the bug's eyes. Those are scanning microscopes or electron scanning microscopes. All right, so here's the best example I can show for you. You ever seen like a Phillips head? Looks nice and neat. If you actually put that underneath a scanning microscope, you'll see little imperfections and details inside of that. We can match that up to a crime scene and make it work. All right, that's it. Hoping not too bad. Take care. God bless. Bye.